We offer you deep historical information from history on YouTube channel. Subscribe. Now don't forget to turn on notifications.
The founding and history of Japan, the epic of the land of the rising sun, the origins of Japan. The history of Japan is a mysterious and fascinating saga dating back to the Paleolithic age. Archaeological evidence points to the presence of human settlement in Japan around 30,000 BC. These early people were nomadic hunter-gatherers and established a civilization known as the Jomon culture. The Jomon culture is known for its distinctive ceramic art and complex spiritual beliefs. Rise of the Yamato Kingdom. In the 3rd century BC, the development of agriculture and the advancement of metallurgy in Japan led to the formation of more complex societies. Among these societies, the Yamato Kingdom stood out. The Yamato Kingdom became Japan's first nation-state by subjugating other tribes and establishing a centralized government. Imperial period. In the 5th century AD, the Yamato Kingdom became the Empire of Japan. The empire was based on a strong, centralized bureaucracy and the absolute authority of the imperial family. Buddhism was introduced to Japan during this period and had a profound influence on Japanese culture. Heian period. In 794, the capital was moved to Heian-kyo, modern Kyoto. The Heian period, 794-1185, is regarded as Japan's golden age. During this period, Japanese literature, arts and crafts flourished. Rise of the samurai. In the 9th century, a feudal system was established in Japan. In this system, samurai, who were warriors who owned land, seized political and military power. Known as disciplined and brave warriors, the samurai played an important role in Japanese history. Edo period. In 1603, Tokugawa Ieyasu unified Japan, and the Edo period, 1603-1868, began. During this period, Japan was isolated from the outside world. Although the Edo period is known as a time of peace and prosperity, it was also a time of Japan's decline. Meiji Restoration. The Meiji Restoration took place in 1868. This marked the beginning of the modernization and westernization of Japan. The Meiji Restoration led to radical changes in Japan's political, economic, and social structure. 20th century. In the 20th century, Japan witnessed many important events, including 2 world wars. After World War II, Japan was occupied by the United States. In 1952, Japan regained its independence. Japan today. Today's Japan is one of the most advanced economies in the world. Japan is a world leader in technology, automobiles, electronics, and many other sectors. Japan is a country rich in culture and tradition. Japanese culture is a blend of traditional and modern elements. Historical importance of Japan. Japan's history is important in many ways. Japan is one of the oldest civilizations in the world and has a rich culture. Japan has undergone great change and transformation in the 20th century and is now one of the most powerful countries in the world. Detailed and comprehensive explanation of the history of Japan, the foundation and development of the Yamato Kingdom. The Yamato Kingdom was a kingdom that arose in the west-central region of Japan in the 3rd century AD. The Yamato Kingdom became Japan's first nation-state by subjugating other tribes and establishing a centralized government. The first ruler of the Yamato Kingdom was the legendary Emperor Jimmu. Jimmu is believed to have ascended the throne in 660 BC. The Yamato Kingdom had extensive trade and cultural relations with China. Buddhism from China spread rapidly to Japan and deeply influenced Japanese culture. The spread of Buddhism in the Yamato Kingdom played an important role in the development of Japanese art, literature, and philosophy. Asuka period, 538-710. The Asuka period was a time of great historical and cultural change and transformation in Japan. During this period, Buddhism was accepted as the official religion in Japan and had a great influence on Japanese art and literature. During the Asuka period, Japan adopted many new technologies and knowledge from China. Nara period, 710–794. The Nara period is the period when Nara, Japan's first permanent capital, was established. During the Nara period, Japan became a powerful state with a centralized bureaucracy. Many temples and monuments were built during this period, and Japanese art and literature enjoyed a golden age. Heian period, 794–1185. The Heian period is considered the golden age of Japan. During this period, Japanese literature, art and handicrafts flourished. Japan lived in peace and prosperity during the Heian period. Kamakura period, 1185–1333. The Kamakura period is a time when a feudal system was established in Japan. During this period, samurai seized political and military power. During the Kamakura period, Japan suffered 2 invasions by the Mongols. Muromachi period, 1333–1573. The Muromachi period was a time of political instability and civil war in Japan. During this period, Japan was ruled by powerful samurai families known as the 12 Warrior Lords. Sengoku period, 1467–1603. The Sengoku period is also known as the period of warring kingdoms in Japan. During this period, Japan experienced many civil wars and conflicts. At the end of the Sengoku period, Tokugawa Ieyasu united Japan and the Edo period began. Edo period, 1603–1868. The Edo period was a time of peace and prosperity in Japan. During this period, Japan was isolated from the outside world. During the Edo period, Japan experienced population growth, economic development and cultural development. Meiji Restoration, 1868. The Meiji Restoration marked the beginning of modernization and westernization in Japan. The Meiji Restoration led to radical changes in Japan's political, economic and social structure. After the Meiji Restoration, Japan rapidly transformed into a modern nation-state. 20th century, Japan's modernization and emergence as a global power. The 20th century was a century of great change and transformation for Japan. Having taken steps towards modernization and westernization at the beginning of the century, Japan has witnessed many important events, including 2 world wars. After the Second World War, Japan was occupied by the United States and regained its independence in 1952. After independence, Japan developed rapidly and became one of the most powerful economies in the world. Major events in 20th century Japan, 1904–1905, Russo-Japanese War. This war, which resulted in Japan's victory, allowed Japan to emerge as a world power. 1910, annexation of Korea. Japan expanded its empire by annexing Korea. 1931, invasion of Manchuria. Japan invaded Manchuria and set up a puppet state. 1937, Second Sino-Japanese War. Japan declared war on China and attempted to invade. 1941, Pearl Harbor attack. Japan entered World War II with the attack on Pearl Harbor. 1945, Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings. The United States dropped atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, causing massive destruction. 1945–1952, U.S. occupation. Japan came under U.S. occupation after the Second World War. 1952, Treaty of San Francisco. Japan regains its independence. 1950s, 1980s, economic development. Japan develops rapidly to become one of the world's most powerful economies. 1990s, economic stagnation. Japan experienced a period of economic stagnation known as the Lost Decade. 2000s, economic recovery. Japan's economy began to recover. 2011, Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. Japan was hit by an earthquake and tsunami that caused massive destruction. Japan's achievements in the 20th century, building a modern nation-state, become one of the world's most powerful economies, making significant advances in technology and science, maintaining a rich culture and tradition, Challenges facing Japan in the 20th century: two world wars, US occupation, economic stagnation, natural disasters. Japan in the 21st century. Japan faces many challenges in the 21st century, including an aging population, slowing economic growth, and geopolitical risks. Despite this, Japan remains one of the most important countries in the world. Japan's future will depend on how it responds to the challenges it faces. With an innovative and entrepreneurial spirit, Japan can meet these challenges and remain one of the world's leading countries in the 21st century. Turning points of the 20th century: Japan's rapid rise and fall. The 20th century was a period in which Japan experienced both a dramatic rise and a sharp decline. Let us take a closer look at the major events of this period. 1. Nationalism and war. The Russo-Japanese War of 1904-1905, victory over the Western powers, enhanced Japan's prestige on the international stage. This victory fueled nationalist sentiments and Japan's territorial ambitions. 1910, annexation of Korea. Japan's domination of Korea provided access to natural resources but damaged international relations. 1931, invasion of Manchuria. Japan's expansionist policy escalated tensions with China and paved the way for World War II. 2. World War II and its aftermath, 1937. Second Sino-Japanese War. A long and attritional war exhausts Japan's resources. 1941, Pearl Harbor attack. War with the United States leads to Japan's defeat. 1945, atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. These devastating events hastened Japan's surrender, occupation and rebirth. 1945, 1952, U.S. occupation. The democratic reforms introduced by the U.S. led to fundamental changes in Japan's political system. Treaty of San Francisco, 1952. Japan's independence was restored, but a security pact was signed with the U.S. Economic development, 1950s, 1980s. Thanks to a cooperative government, American technology, and a skilled workforce, Japan experienced an economic boom dubbed the miracle. It became a world leader in the automobile, shipbuilding, and electronics industries. 4. Challenges and recession, the lost decade of the 1990s. The bursting of the asset bubble and political instability plunged Japan into a long economic recession. 2011. Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. Natural disasters severely damaged Japan's economy and infrastructure. Legacy of the 20th century. The 20th century was a period of contradictions for Japan. Modernization and economic success were juxtaposed with the destruction caused by nationalism and war. Japan is still coming to terms with this period and trying to shape its future. Japan's economic miracle, a success story from the ashes. After the devastation of the Second World War, Japan underwent an extraordinary period of development known as the economic miracle. From the 1950s to the 1980s, Japan became the fastest growing economy in the world. And this success story is remarkable in many ways. Key factors in the miracle: government policy. With a cooperative and pragmatic approach, the Japanese government implemented policies that promoted industrialization and supported the free market. Industrial focus, concentration on export-oriented sectors such as automobiles, electronics, and shipbuilding increased Japan's competitiveness in the international market. Technology and innovation. By actively transferring and developing foreign technology, Japanese companies gained market share with innovative products. Education and skilled labor. High levels of education and a disciplined work ethic have provided Japan with a productive workforce, social cohesion, and synergy. The collective culture and strong work ethic of Japanese society contributed to the miracle by focusing on a common goal. Results of the miracle: increased prosperity. Japan became one of the richest countries in the world, and living standards rose dramatically. Global power. The Japanese economy began to play a major role in the global economy, becoming a leader in many sectors. Technology leader, Japanese companies pioneered innovations in fields such as electronics and automobiles. End of the miracle. The bursting of the asset bubble and the financial crisis of the 1990s plunged Japan into a long period of stagnation. Although the Japanese economy began to recover after this period, it was unable to regain its former growth rate. Lessons from the miracle: planned development. The active role of the government and long-term planning play an important role in development, education, and innovation. Skilled labor and innovative products are the basis for sustainable growth. Social cohesion and cooperation, social unity and shared goals strengthen development efforts. The Japanese economic miracle is an inspiring example of how development and success are possible even in the face of adversity. Social change in Japan. The delicate balance between tradition and modernity. The 20th century was a period of great change in Japan, not only economically but also socially. After the Second World War, Japanese society sought to embrace the innovations of modernization, while at the same time preserving its traditional values. As a result, there have been important changes in many areas. Family structure, transition from traditional extended families to nuclear families, women's participation in the labor force and changes in their roles in the family, rising divorce rates, low fertility and aging population, gender roles, increased access to education and employment opportunities for women, progress towards gender equality, challenging stereotypes of traditional gender roles, education system, raising levels of education and literacy, adoption of a system based on equal opportunities and meritocracy in education, developing educational institutions and programs to international standards, religion and spirituality, the spread of traditional religions such as Buddhism and Shintoism, as well as new religions such as Christianity. Declining adherence to religious beliefs and increasing secularization, the development of spiritual pursuits and individual belief systems. Popular culture, combining elements of Western and Japanese culture. Globalization of popular culture, products such as manga, anime, and video games. The growing popularity of Japanese culture and aesthetics around the world. Challenges of social change, maintaining a balance between tradition and modernity, finding solutions to demographic problems such as an aging population and low birth rate, reducing income disparity and social injustice, integrating migrants and foreigners. Consequences of social change, a more open and democratic society, a more individualistic and liberal lifestyle, a more globally integrated Japan. Social change in Japan is an ongoing process. The results of this change will play an important role in shaping Japan's future. Japan's history and social change, an epic journey. Japan's history and social change is one of humanity's most fascinating and complex epics. It tells the story of how a nation with deep-rooted traditions and a unique culture changed and evolved as it interacted with the modern world. Historical journey. Japan's history has a mysterious past dating back to the Paleolithic Age. From the founding of the Yamato Kingdom to the splendor of the imperial era and the complexity of the feudal system, Japan has undergone many changes over the centuries. The modernization and westernization initiated by the Meiji Restoration made Japan a world power in the 20th century. After the devastation of the Second World War, Japan experienced an extraordinary period of development known as the economic miracle, social transformation. The 20th century was a period of great change in Japan, not only economically but also socially. Striking a balance between preserving traditional values and embracing the innovations of modernization has been a major challenge for Japanese society. Significant changes have taken place in many areas, including family structure, gender roles, the education system, religion and spirituality, and popular culture. Conclusions and the future. Japan's historical and social transformation has led to many important outcomes. A more open and democratic society, a more individualistic and liberal lifestyle, and a more integrated Japan with the global world are the most important outcomes of this change. Japan's future will depend on how this transformation continues. Issues such as an aging population, a low birth rate, income inequality, and integration with immigrants are key challenges that Japan will need to address in the coming years. Continuation of the saga. Japan's historical and social transformation is an ongoing process. How this saga will continue and shape Japan's future remains to be seen.
We offer you deep historical information from history on YouTube channel. Subscribe. Now don't forget to turn on notifications.